Greetings to Paul University class of 20XDX. As you know, we use Mega Man years now because everyone got sick of counting. Congratulations, all of you, on graduating.
We are the Anime Sickos, your commencement speakers. Unfortunately, COVID-20 killed all the more famous alumni, so we're the best you're getting.
Yo, what about Jabuki, like from Twitter? He went to DePaul, and last I heard, he was a mutant, and thus was immune to COVID-20 due to his fantastic powers.
He only did 3 years, though. He didn't finish.
Okay.
We'd like to give you an inspiring speech, but I gotta be honest, folks. When we went here, our education did not prepare us to live as servants of the horrible blood machine, which is 10 miles tall and walks now, and is our king. So we're kind of winging it here.
Yeah, when I went here, I mostly just wrote the same paper about the semiotics of Always Sunny like 15 times. I got a 3.8.
You might not be aware of this, but we actually had a podcast called Anime Sickos. That's actually a pretty big deal.
Have.
What?
You said we had a podcast, past tense? Come on, dude, we talked about this.
Oh yeah, so technically it's still ongoing, but I gotta tell you, it was a lot easier to produce back when there was a stable power grid.
No, for real. There were plugs in every house that just worked all the time. Listen, you assholes.
Tom, no, pretend it's a bit. You're killing.
Fuck. Sure. But, yeah, our podcast is, like, really famous.
Well, actually, it's not famous at all. Like, all our listeners died from COVID-20, but when people had heard of it, it still wasn't that famous. Like, only a few people listened. But you gotta understand that the people who listened, like, really liked it.
When I graduated, my commencement speaker was an ant scientist who had gotten a lot of flack for being pro-eugenics. The whole time he talked about ants. This was before COVID-20, so they could have picked anyone.
That ant guy probably didn't even have a podcast. Who am I fucking kidding? Anyone who's pro-eugenics definitely has a podcast with 100 times as many listeners as us.
I think we're getting off topic, so let me just wrap this up. You should all be so proud for graduating. It's no small thing to have your education pod certify your compliance. It takes a lot for someone to obey so pathetically for 4 whole years.
As you leave today, hold your head high so everyone can see your brand of compliance, which, as you know, entitles you not to be murdered on sight by the stewards of blood. Well, like, on paper.
And if I have one piece of advice, it's this. Always remember that if you do well in the battle arena, Lord Bones will give you a barrel of water and many comely servants.
You know, being back at the old alma mater reminds me of something that really affected me. You may be surprised to learn this, but I actually taught writing at this institution. During my time teaching, a student submitted a research paper proposal about medical marijuana, and they used a different word for weed every time. The last two were jazz cigarettes and smoky, smoky green green. It was really funny. Other than that, I got nothing good to say.
And that student's name? Lord Bones. I gotta be honest for a second though, folks. We suck at the battle arena so bad.
For real, who's got some water?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's the podcast for geniuses and the only podcast where we look at the 4 pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I'm Tom, an anime sicko.
I'm Joe, an anime sicko.
Now, Joe, our college-themed cold open, this wasn't just a ridiculous goofer we wrote and wanted to put into the show because no one can tell us no, it was that. But also, we were setting up our great topic for this week's episode, which is we're going to fix college.
Yeah, it's going to happen here. And first of all, you're not getting your money back.
Yeah, no, the money's gone. If you went to college, the grift was complete. Like you're at the point in the heist movie where like 30 years have passed. You can't like go back and nail the crook.
But you can maybe make a better world for someone else who is, I don't know, 18 and is about to make the largest financial choice of their life.
Yeah. So I've talked about this on the podcast before. But I was actually an English major, and to my forever shame, I was a creative writing major. And we've spoken on the podcast previously about college, and our speakings have been couched in a sort of context of hatred and fury and being betrayed.
Yeah, and it turns out I was depressed too, you know? Yeah.
I mean, even if you're not depressed, like that's the correct framing when you think about college, because that's just what they did to you. Because as I look back, the more I sort of grow as a person and a writer and an artist and just sort of get more context on my life by being alive more, the more angry I get when I think back on college. I didn't know yet at the time to be this angry, and I didn't even know last year to be this angry. Every year I get angrier at it. It's so fucking dumb. And because when I think about like what has made me good at writing, literally none of it came from my fucking English writing workshop classes. And when I think about the classes and how they're set up, I don't even think it's like DePaul's fault. I think like literally it's impossible for these fucking classes to teach anyone anything.
I actually think how DePaul was set up in terms of writing was actually pretty good because hold on. We need to establish that we have a category issue here because we have what we talked about, which is like the problem with writing as it is instructed is that English and appreciation of literature and the actual function of communication as a tool are taught in the same context, which is insane.
Yes, it really fucking is.
So as I had mentioned, I had taught college writing for I think 3 years, and it was a lot of freshman writing classes. At DePaul, it's set up. They made I really believe correct choice of separating the English department from the rhetoric department. Which, if you don't really care about most things, you'd be like, why does that matter? And I think it does matter because the way we're taught English in high school and below, which is you learn writing. And it's based around literature and writing about literature.
But it has nothing to do with, like, expression and the writing of literature. It's all, like, please make a rhetorical discourse about this piece of writing. And that's the same, right? Those two things are the same.
Right. And what I experienced teaching is that, like, there's a bunch of students that come in, even students that had good high schools and were pretty proficient writers, like mechanically, they're like afraid to fucking say their opinions in things because like for the longest time they were told like if you use the letter I while writing, the devil gets you.
Yeah, the devil will come out. He'll say, I've tricked you at last. He'll drag you to hell, and then you have to become one of the little guys who poke people.
Yeah, that was a reoccurring theme. And the other thing that was kind of like funny to experience is revelation again and again with a bunch of students, which is like the structure of the 5-paragraph essay is completely arbitrary. Like a lot of, unfortunately, students had it ingrained in their brain that is the container of all human discourse. Yeah. You writing a 5-paragraph essay is how you get a car, how you go to the grocery store, how you go to the bank. Like, obviously we know this is intuitively not true, but like it might as well be the case with how important students feel it is because they're yelled about it nonstop.
Yeah, we cannot hold the students accountable for this because like I was a fucking teen at one point too. And as much as I'd like to think that I was like an iconoclast who didn't go with the flow, man, I was like an idiot, and everything that I got told, I believed because like it's how people grow up. And yeah, it sucks shit, dude.
Yeah.
So I was not looking to learn writing in that sort of like rote, mechanical, rhetorical style that so many people think that that's the only way writing is, and the way that it is bundled with literature and artistic writing, which is ridiculous. I was like, no, I'm going to do creative writing. And the way, if you've never taken a creative writing class, you may be wondering, like, well, what do they teach you? Like, how do they teach you how to write creatively? That was a question I was asking myself as I was about to take my first creative writing class. I was very excited to learn the answer. They don't teach you anything ever. And you can go 4 years and they don't teach you a lesson the whole time. They just don't. So, like, one thing that I was really worried about was like, all right, I'm making a fiction writing class, and like I know that I'm a good writer. Like I've written things that I'm proud of, and people have told me like, oh, you're pretty good for your age. And I'm like, all right, dope. But like, I don't really think I'm comfortable writing fiction because like I don't know what to write about. Like I don't know what to say. Like a whole story. Like how do you come up with the plot? Like how do you come up with the characters and like what happens to them and make that be sort of important or poignant? I wonder if they're going to teach me. No, they don't. That's sort of a thing that they completely sidestep, which, wow, looking back on it, they should have taught me that.
So what did you learn from your workshop? Like, what is a concrete thing, as much as you can snark about, was objectively true? Like, as little as it was. Like, give me the mere crumbs you got out of this.
Okay, I'll give you some things that I objectively learned from a workshop class. One is that if you ever pay for a workshop class, you're a fucking rube because the professor is a non-entity. The professor, the only person with expertise, is a non-entity because the whole purpose of the class is for everyone to give you feedback, which you'll realize that all but one of everyone is just another student. And all you needed to do this workshop class is for everyone to show up in a room. And the only thing the professor and your tuition is providing is that the room, instead of like you choosing it collectively, the room gets written down on a piece of paper for you at the start of the quarter.
I don't know. The fact that a lot of your feedback comes from other idiots who don't know anything is an amazing scam. This is like teaching your bigger dog to dog sit your other dogs. This is such a scam.
This is like, okay, it's 1,000 guys in the Play-Doh cave, and they're giving each other like feedback on what they think is outside the cave, and like there's one guy, the professor, who's like moving the shadow puppets, who's just like listening to and listening to all
they're
the
just
students.
like, these are some good theories. These are some really interesting theories with regards to the shadows on the wall.
Oh God, yeah, and because everyone is an idiot, you don't know anything. Like you no one has the sort of self-confidence to just like go nutso, and everyone is implicitly pressured to sort of meet the tone. And the tone, since we're in academia, is of, and here's the big one. Here's the thing that I really hate. Fucking college English major for making me live through for 4 years, is that you just gotta be always in literary fiction. Lit fic, folks. We're talking about short stories about 40-year-old professors with tenure at a small liberal arts college who are unhappy with their marriage, and they have an affair with a sexy 18-year-old pog. But here's the thing, when they fuck the pog and it's hot, buddy, the sex scene, it's gonna be really, really detailed and about how this 40-year-old guy's dick, you think it wouldn't be that bomb, but actually the pog is just blown the fuck out. You'd think that would make him really happy, right? No, he actually hates having sex with her. It makes him more depressed because here's the thing, the pog is so shallow and he's so wise. So that's every story that you're assigned, and that's every story that the professors and just sort of the tone and inertia of the academia setting tells you is what literature's all about.
Look, I think you were a little heavy-winded there, but I think it is not incorrect to say that most of these stories do boil down to I'm a pogaholic and it's ruining my life.
Dude, I would actually enjoy reading a funny little story that had it in those terms. But they never do. They never fucking do. It's so miserable. And to think that you are setting teens up to write stories in that milieu is such, like, that's destined for failure. How could a teen ever do that?
And this is also fundamentally why write what you know, which is correct advice, I want to be clear, is also a horrible torture device when you tell it to, like, a 19-year-old.
A 19-year-old who has it in their mind that they have to write literary fiction, mind you.
Yes, whose major milestones of life are all school-based. Which is not to say, like, shame on them for not having a more exciting life, but at the same time, like, you get to college and you're like, well, what you can't do is you can't write about people in high school, and you're like, well, fuck, because that's like, I got a lot of material in that sense.
And you can't write about anything cool. So if there's something you like, don't write about that. You gotta write about a love affair that didn't quite work, and it's like, Professor, I've never been on a date. I don't know how this works. It's so annoying. Like, here's something I'm gonna say that sounds like it's a joke, but it's not. I think that if you are a professor or someone who's designing one of these classes, and you are putting forth yourself as an authority on writing and storytelling.
You're talking about this in the context of, like, a fiction workshop.
Yes. If you are having people pay because they think that you know about how to put together a good story and can help them learn it. If you're that person and you haven't read the manga of Dragon Ball, you're a fraud and you should not be allowed to do it. Because, like,
the pacing's pretty good, dude.
The pacing's incredible. And also, like, literary fiction is a genre where cool shit can't happen. Because, like, that's genre fiction and that's not smart. Like, it has to, the action of the story has to be in the head of a character, and the plot is I'm depressed. And nothing cool can happen. And Dragon Ball is just a manga where literally only thing that occurs is badass fights, and that's it. The plot is like whatever. It's made up on the spot. The characters get very little development, and it's just like shit that rules, and it's still incredible. It's still one of the best pieces of fiction ever written, even though it's sort of like baby's first thought up a plot. And if you don't know that that's possible, there's like so fucking many universes of art that you've just closed yourself off from. And you're telling me that you're going to teach me how to write? Fuck you.
So I did the workshops for a while, and I actually had a very, 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 very good one, which fucked me up, I think, even worse because...
Oh, no. You're chasing the dragon.
Yeah, I was. I was chasing the dragon. You know how we had the Sickos thing where we're like, if you have a good boss, they just have a death timer above their head because the world will get them. Mm-hmm. The professor and writer who taught this good workshop was Evan Wilner, who then became a lawyer because he was good at stuff. He was such an important, like, I'd say, figure in, like, my approach to fiction. I'll explain why, but again, just proof that this was an individual with an amazing talent for talking about stories, the mechanics of them, and how they work. And the world's like, you gotta be like, sorry, like, it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
So I took him with another course. Like, it was just like a course where you didn't do the workshop. It was just an English course. And he assigned a lot of, like, really weird shit. Like, he was a guy who liked weird shit. Like, he liked a good goofer.
This MF read Dragon Ball. Maybe he didn't read Dragon Ball in specific, but, like, he did the reading Dragon Ball work.
He understands Dragon Ball.
Exactly.
And what he did so well is he was very focused on the mechanics of telling a story, which is just, like, it's a series of choices. And rather than speaking in, like, high-minded ideals about, like emotion of story and, like, theme and big things, he was very good at just focusing on, like, what are the mechanics of this story? How are you telling it? How are the choices you are making? Like, how do they line up with your intention of the story? Stuff that no one had ever fucking like told me before, because in my whole life it was just like, make sure you put the comma in the right place, you moron. And that was also where I was assigned, what is it, Seabrook, Stony Brook, the George Saunders.
Oh, Sea Oak.
Yeah, Sea Oak.
We're going to talk about George Saunders later. Let's put a pin in that.
Yeah, but he was where I got like the sicko bite on that. Like, he sort of gave me that. He was like, you write like Dennis Johnson, and I was like, is that an anime? I don't know what that is. And then I made the 20-year-old mistake of looking up his work, and then like trying too hard. I fucked it up.
No.
I fucked it up.
No, it sucks, dude. Don't do that. God, I'm so jealous of that. Because I never fucking had one of those. All of my workshop classes were just very like lit fic centric. You have to write literary fiction, and we never got that sort of nuts and bolts. Like, well, how do you actually write a story? And like the answer I got was like, well, you simply have to like inhabit the characters and let them live on the page. It's like, well, I don't. The only characters I can think up are 19-year-old dumbasses, because I am that. And like, if I try to think up other characters, they're gonna act like 19-year-old dumbasses. I'm sorry to say, but they're gonna just be wearing a costume. So all my stories sucked ass. And I wanted to put into words why literary fiction, especially for someone who's an idiot and doesn't know anything, as is a student, why it was such a sort of restrictive format, and why it was so bullshit that it was put on these students in academia just by default. And I asked Du Bois Chat, and our homie Alex Prokowski Borko, a previous Gesto Mode goer, just hit me with a one-hit KO. I want to read it to you out loud now. Literary fiction doesn't see a limit as a thing to be surpassed, just a thing you find out about and go, well, in order to make a poignant statement about life.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Limits never get surpassed in sad professor stories.
Yeah, like the limit is like how many affairs can make you sad. And it's like, you thought it was one? Bitch, it's two. Fuck you. I love having sad affairs. The ass was even bigger the second time. And I tell you what, there was a 3-paragraph description of how the light shone on my jism. Fucking lit fic people love to say jism. The worst, most disgusting way you can put a reference to semen on the page, and I've seen this in like Victorian stuff, is spelling it cum, but C-O-M-E. Oh, Jesus Christ! Don't even. I'm thinking I might cut that out.
It's fucked up.
That's very perverse. God damn it! I think what really made this a one-hit KO for me when Borko said this was that like it's so true, and also it reveals, I think, the fundamental flaw of trying to teach someone literary fiction, especially as a learning student. If you make a poignant statement about life, what is that? What is the requirement that you need to hit in order to do that? Well, you have to be smart, don't you? Okay. Well, right away, literary fiction is exposed as a total fraud because no one has ever been smart. Like, I've never met a smart person in my fucking life. The only smart people I've met are miserable for being smart, because if you're smart, you realize that we're on a dying planet, and every single decision that's being made is being made to make it die faster and die in a more painful way.
And as the planet cooks and we all boil and die, we can't even get graphics cards produced fast enough. It's so fucked up.
Yeah. It's fucked up. It's bullshit. Yeah, being smart is a useless skill and makes everything worse. The people who are rewarded are the idiots who accept the lie. And just like to think that I was taught for years, I paid money to have people say that, well, the thing about these stories, you have to make a story that makes a poignant statement about life that's no one's ever thought up before. And it's like, I'm 20, I'm thinking about fucking Team Fortress. Like, that's what I'm into. Like,
I played a lot of Team Fortress. that was honestly more significant to my mental development than that first year of college because
Yes.
I TF2 came out. I had a MacBook that had Boot Camp on it, which was in beta, so I was able to run it on there. That was a big win for 19-year-old me.
Jesus Christ, yeah, dude, for real. And like to think that instead of leaning into that, I was told like, no, what you should do is you should stop playing Team Fortress, sit down, and write a story that makes a statement that no one's ever thought up before, and that I was expected to do that, and that I had a workshop of my peers who told me that I had failed to do that, and like that I felt bad about it, is insane. Like, and I just want to give you a concrete example of just the kind of shit that happened in these workshop classes that made me just like my jaw drop, and I just didn't understand what I was supposed to be learning. I never wrote anything good in any of these workshop classes, to be clear. All the stuff I wrote was terrible. But I also never read anything good. All the other students wrote shitty stuff too. And generally, we'd go around and everyone would be like, it's not very good, and do little nitpicks that weren't actually addressing the core, which was you're trying to say something that you don't know how to say, and you should stop trying to say that. But the one time that I saw a piece of fiction in a workshop class get just unequivocal praise was, and I'm going to put a content warning here because there is sexual assault in this story. It was a story about a trans glam punk rocker, and she went out behind the club and was graphically sexually assaulted in a luridly described, no cut to black, luridly described way. And that was the entire story. I read that and I'm like, oh, this is the worst shit I ever read in my life. I feel really gross and I hate this. The professor said it was the best thing he'd ever read that a student had ever written, and that he should submit it to journals, not journals for students, journals for established fiction writers. And everyone was like, damn, he right, damn, what a story. And I'm just like, oh no, oh no.
Yeah, that's the stuff that really creatively jokerfies you.
It does, dude. It fucking does.
I didn't pursue more workshops after I had a really good one, and then I had one that was pretty good, and then I just stopped because I was like, I'm gambling at this point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk away with something. And I don't think I felt quite the betrayal you experienced because I was fed stupid shit early on, so I kind of had, I think, a better sense of self. Also, I've had like nonstop intrusive ADHD thoughts since I've been like, 4, and like usually the thoughts are some version of what's the dumbest thing that can happen right now, or what's the funniest thing that can happen right now is the ongoing thing. And because of that, I was able to like buoy myself through a lot of these workshops because like I was like, this is the game. I'm playing the game.
That game you're playing is a better fucking writing tool than whatever they were teaching you.
It's not really like even a tool. It's just like when you boil the teapot, steam comes out. Like it's just like it's gonna come out of me.
Yeah, God, it's just I wish that I had that impulse that you did, Joe, to make it a game in that way. Because I wasn't brave enough. Because I kept taking these and I kept thinking that like, well, if I just play along with this litfic format, and pretend that I'm a very serious artist who makes poignant themes, one day I'll learn. No, it's not true. And like, I wish that I had gotten a professor who liked wizards. Professors hate wizards, dude. They absolutely fucking despise it. They hate it when a cool thing happens.
It's honestly one of the biggest problems at universities right now.
No one likes wizards. When you say like, hey, yo, I'm going to write a story, and in it, wizards are going to fight, and they're going to use a lot of proper nouns, and they'll be like, D, fail, hate you. That's ridiculous. And especially because, like, the standard litfic format of the aimless liberal arts professor who's lost the spark in their marriage, that the target audience that's going to actually identify with that grows smaller every year.
It's also like consumed by the only people who write it.
Yep.
So there's this like kind of gross circular thing. In fact, many of them are just the people working at the various universities. This is a fucking Ponzi scheme. I'm starting to think. This is a really good gag.
It's a big grift, dude. They don't teach you shit. And also, I think the fact that this sort of trope of this aimless professor is so rare makes it impossible to even like disconnect your brain and just like accept it as a piece of art. Because like every time I read one of these things, I'm just like, you have tenure? Like what are you doing being aimless? Like you can game all day and not get in trouble.
So the other day I was thinking about if I get my doctorate, that's like 6 years. And then I could apply for a tenure track position, which is usually a 7-year process. So 14 years from now, if I'm given tenure, it is possible that as soon as they give me that, the next day, I'm only talking about some cool cards I saw. Like I'm just being like, look, the ice shark and monster train, he's got abs. I don't know why, because he swims like a normal shark. There's no reason you would get definition like that. And they're like, didn't you used to teach writing? You're like, yeah, guess what? I got paper that says this is monster train right now.
Fuck, dude. I mean, better 14-year plan than I've got. All right, okay. So we've done a lot of complaining. We've done a lot of moaning. We've gotten all that out of the way. Now comes the turn in this segment, which is we need to fix college. We didn't say the sickos complain about college. We said the sickos fix college. I'm going to explain my theory of how an actual good writing program would teach people and help them learn. And this is based on just me sort of reflecting on like, man, I've gotten better as a writer as years have gone on. How come? And here it is. I think the first thing that you should do in a fucking writing program, before you're getting asked to write a short story, where it's like, come in next week with a short story, and it's like, but I don't know how to write that. And it's like, too bad, we're never going to teach you. Literally never. What you should do is, like, the first month should just be like, hey, think about the shows and stories and books and comics you like. What you should do is you should open a big spreadsheet and just, like, put down all the shit that happens in it that makes you hoot. All the shit that's really exciting to you. Don't, like, worry about why it's exciting to you or try to look any deeper than that. Just sort of, like, figure out, like, what's cool. And I gotta tell you, if I had a toolbox of shit like that when I was doing writing in college, I would be so much further than I am now. Because I cannot fucking tell you how useful it is on just a practical level as a writer to just know what's good.
Let's take the pin out of Sea Oak. This was the George Saunders story we mentioned previously. So the thing about this story is it's just a bunch of shit that whips.
Yeah.
I will paraphrase from memory. Tom, jump in as I get it. Basically, it's about a male stripper who is stripping to keep the rent coming in for a cramped apartment with his grandma, like his 2 sisters, and like all their kids or whatever. And
this sounds like a literary fiction story, and also it's by like an acclaimed author of literary fiction. That's probably really boring. Like I bet nothing
Genius
cool happens.
Grant Getter.
Yeah, nothing cool happens. Definitely.
And then the grandma dies, and then she comes back, and she's like, "I'm horny now. We're gonna make money." She's like, you know what? In my life, I was very good. And now I want to fuck. I want to fuck, and I want money. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna start whipping your dick out on stage, everybody. Like she just like starts taking over the family. She's like a demon. Like she decomposes as she's doing this.
She's not coming back to life. Like. And now she's fine. It's like, oh, she's getting stinkier. And, like, the stinkier she gets, she's like, I gotta fuck soon because, like, this ain't gonna hold up for long.
and the purpose of the 2 sisters or aunts or whatever, I now realize this because we had our Venture Brothers episode. They're just there to be a duo and do bits. Like, literally, like, they respond to something on the TV like a dumb person would. And then the other person says something as a goof, and like that.
They call out the other one for being dumb, but in a different way. They're not smart. They're just dumb in a different way.
Yeah, it's. I haven't read the story recently, but I feel like if you remove them, the story still like functions. Like they exist to just be layups.
Yeah, and Joe, and the reason this is so fucking valuable, and George Saunders is such an incredible writer, is because he understands what we were just talking about, which is you just gotta know. If you're a writer, you just gotta know what to you whips ass and makes you hoot, and just put it fucking in. Just like put it in. You thought it would be funny if a timid old lady came back to life and was like, "It's party time now. Let's fuck." Grandson, you gotta whip your dick out at work. I know you get fired if you do it, but some women will actually not complain and take you home and fuck you for money. I'll place a magic glowing thumbprint on the forehead of the women who will be down for it.
Yeah, like she has powers.
Yes.
She has powers.
Like the powers are used for like, we gotta get that paper. We gotta get that paper so that we can have strippers come over and. It's so fucking good. It's incredible. And like this is another thing about how it's so useful to have just a toolbox of like knowing what you like, because when you are in these workshop classes and your assignment is write a short story, and then you come in and the short story gets critiqued, and then the next assignment is use that critique to fulfill and hone your short story. You have this thought in your mind, and I had it, and I didn't even realize I had until very recently. That's when the scales fell from my eyes. You have this thought that like when you write a short story, it is an important independent thing on its own, and you have to make it good. And if you don't, you failed.
Yeah.
Like the short story itself is the important thing, and you have to make it good. That's the goal. Fucking no. No.
This obsession with a format, the short story, which again,
no one reads.
There's no audience. Like I think I've joked about this with you before, but like reading lifestyles from previous writers is infuriating because like. Every small town had 800 magazines that were just like short stories, and you could get paid $80 a day if you just wrote a story about a man and his dog, and we still teach short fiction, and it's like this focus on it as if it is a consumed medium, like in any sort of scale.
Yeah, and like to me, the purpose of a short story, in terms of my own growth as a writer, is maybe I'll think of something to put in my toolbox. Maybe something funny that makes me hoot will come out of my fucking hands, and I'll save that for later. And then I will, like, the growth is honestly just like, who am I? And like, what am I good at putting on the page? And knowing that is incalculably helpful. And no writing class ever teaches you it. They never even talk about it as like a possibility. And like it might sound like, well, isn't it uncreative to just like think of writing as like Lego pieces that you put together? Like, well, no, because the fun is taking the funny goof and making it work in the setting that you've set up. And part of the fun is like, what would be the hardest thing to have happen here that I love? Yeah, and just make that happen, and it's fun.
The Lego pieces example is exactly what Evan Wilner, the good professor, used to talk about stories for the purpose of not to be like, it's just a bunch of Lego pieces, but the purpose of to be like, these are concrete things that happen. These are not abstractions. Like writing is not like this lofty thing where a muse speaks through you and there's like creative visions and shit. It's like, no, let's look at the concrete choices. And it sort of demystifies it on that front, which I found very effective. Clearly, no one ever did that shit for you.
Yeah, no one ever did. And, fuck. Well, actually, there was one good class that I took that did help me in this way. I didn't realize it was helping me in this way until later, because it was a literature class, not a writing class. And again, those things are, for whatever reason, separated and considered different by a student's brain. And this was an independent study that I got asked to join, so it wasn't even a class that you could take. And what it was is we just read Bleak House by Charles Dickens, and that was the entire class. And the thing was, before we started, before the quarter began, our homework was to read Bleak House. and like just have it completely read. And then when the actual class began, we just read it again. But this time we already knew what the fucking story was, and what we did was we would just like for next class read the next chapter. And we all knew what would happen in the next chapter. We all knew the entire plot. But what we would do is we'd come back and be like, all right, what about that chapter was good? Like, why was that chapter good? Like, what was being done in that chapter in regards to the entire plot, in regards to the characterization, in regards to, like, the Bleak House has a very, very weird structure as a novel. And it's like, what is the structure doing here? Like, the fact that this was presented this way, the fact that there was a third-person narrator in this chapter, what does that mean? What does that do? Is that good? Is that bad? And holy shit, that was the best class I ever took by a fucking wide margin, because it was the only writing class that made me fucking actually think about like what's good and like what makes our writing good. Workshop classes don't fucking teach you that. They teach you to write litfic and meekly nitpick it.
And then also you are encouraged to go after stuff that doesn't adhere to the lit pick feel. Like this whole like sort of like socialized process. Like it shouldn't be, and it might be better in some cases now, but like that was like literally the case. It produces these sort of stories that have certain feels. That,
and it makes you all become cops.
Yes. Yeah, and also, I feel like we're always tiptoeing around a conversation, which is always happening on book Twitter, which is exhausting, which is like genre fiction is as important as literary, and I don't care about that. I think the distinction between has spaceships or not is a really fucking stupid sort for workshop expectations.
Like, it's not that literary fiction is inherently worse than genre fiction, it's just that genre fiction has less of that impulse to be a cop that literary fiction does. Like there's more of a cultural expectation that you're allowed to do something funny, something goofy, and something out there, and like really try something weird that you think is gonna be cool and make you hoot. It's easier to have some badass shit happen when there's wizards around.
That's true.
You can have badass shit happens when there's not wizards around. See George Saunders, for example. But like, yeah, especially as like a fucking young teen, trying to do literary fiction at all is going to make you and all of your peers become cops that hate cool things, and that's no good.
I just got a really dumb idea for a stupid short story. It's the sort of run of the mill sad professor thing, but the gimmick is that he lives next to an actual wizard.
Dude, okay, that sounds fucking incredible. And Joe, I think, okay, here it is. Here's the crux. I think this is it. You may write that short story. It will kick ass. It'll be very funny. You'll put in all the things that make you hoot. And you may, just by serendipity, end up making a profound, poignant statement about life, which is, of course, the goal of all this lit fic shit. But if you do that, it will not be because you set out to do that. It will be because you set out to write about a sad professor who lives next to a wizard, because doesn't that own? And that sounds good as hell. And to me, this is sicko mindset rising again. Sicko mindset, which is proving truer by the day, where writing classes want you to write as though you think you are smart. But if you want to write well, you need to revel in how you know you are dumb, for it is there that genius lies.
Yeah, I got a lot better at writing when I just sort of stopped trying to sound like a better educated version of myself, which I think I went into college with a lot of like class anxiety because both my parents didn't go to college, and no one was like, this is what it's going to be. It was like, you're going to go to the place where you get a better job. And I was like, cool. Yeah. And I think part of that class anxiety, and like this is again why class is fake. It's like, I want to be clear, like my family was like very comfortable like growing up. Like it was just like blue collar, and it's like there's not a story about like economic hardship in that regard. It's like I just didn't.
It's not like hillbilly elegy. It's like
I'm
having a nice house elegy.
It's just like I got there, and I didn't know anything about like anything, like what to expect or anything. And that's because like I didn't have parents that ever went through that. And my sister went through it at a state school, but she's 11 years older than me. I'm a big accident. So it didn't really line up. And the way I dealt with that is like, I'm going to pretend I'm real fucking smart. I'm going to just pretend I don't sound like a moron if left to my own devices.
Yeah, and turns out, who would have thought? Who could possibly foresee this? That when you read writing by someone who is pretending to be something else, it does not come off as authentic and interesting as someone who's just like, I'm a big dumb fucking moron. Here's the stupid brain thought that I had. They're wild, dude. Turns out that's better. Who would have predicted it? Certainly not the fucking English department at DePaul University. That's who.
What I think is really funny about this is I got all of the good insights about storytelling and literature from DePaul's English department, and I'm not an English major. I just took them on the whim. You went whole kit and caboodle, and you didn't get shit, which is honestly funny.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. 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 Before we do our next segment, I need to fucking read some patron names from our Patreon. Joe, also, I think it's worth mentioning that we have a Patreon. We don't mention it often because we're dumbasses, and also because mentioning it too much is annoying. We have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/animesickos. We don't have any special rewards. If you give us money, it's simply out of charity. So just getting that out there so you're not, you don't think that you're going to get a goodie. We're being honest with you.
If you gave us enough that I could quit my job, that would be cool.
Yeah.
The expectation that happens is it's a low confidence outcome for me.
But it's every dollar is appreciated. And to that point, we have some patrons you have to read out today. I would like to thank our patron Honeybee155. They recently upped their patronage level to the $5 level, and they have said that it is because of the strength of the Aaron and Vince Go Guesto mode episode with the Kame House boys, and I gotta say, great decision. That was a hell of an episode.
Correct.
We also would like to thank our patron Infsup, INFSUP, Infsup. Thank you for your patronage. What a name.
So we fixed writing. It's all fixed. No one needs to study it anymore.
Yeah.
So now there's sort of a gap, I think, in college, what
should you study?
You should take as many college credits in Sicko Studies.
The thing about Sicko Studies is that first off, you're going to need it to be 2010. If that's not the case, then none of these credits are going to apply. But if you can get it to be 2010, this is the major for you. This is really a solid pick for your future.
So many programs have required internships. Some foreign language majors require time spent abroad. Sicko Studies is not really any different. There is a residency requirement, and you have to spend at least 1 year in a gaming house.
When I say a gaming house, I mean there needs to be at least 4 guys. Each of the guys has to own their own gaming PC. There has to be horrible, disgusting gray carpet.
Just the worst fucking carpet on the planet.
If you walk barefoot on this carpet, you need to take a shower like your shoulders feel dirty. There needs to be absolutely zero natural light, just a disgusting fucking hovel. There's nothing on the walls except possibly unframed movie posters and posters that come with special editions of games.
Yeah, there was a period where graphics cards would give you a cool poster of a robot lady. Those work.
Yeah. There needs to be, just at all times, Doritos. There can never not be Doritos in the house. The thing about that is that's the thing that sticks with you, because I love Doritos to this day. Also, you're going to need to discover what at the grocery store gives you the most sort of food to money ratio. Now, for us at the time, when I was in my gaming house residency, it was a Lipton brand rice sides, where you could pay $1 for a packet of rice and flavoring, and you could get 2 meals out of that easy.
We had a by the slice pizza place in the alley that we were connected by. Yeah, it was hey, I didn't go grocery shopping. I can just grab a slice on the way home. Or if you're on the porch, you're I'm basically already there. So a lot of calorie planning is going to be based around $5 slices of pizza, either from Bocce's or D'Agostino's.
Oh, God, gross. Joe, here's the thing. I think this might be sort of a borderline gaming house experience because getting these pizza slices does require you to leave the gaming house, which you're going to need to do as rarely as possible.
Yes. The point of the gaming house is that you lose HP when you leave it. But when you're in it, you're going to game better than you ever have in your life. Because, first of all, there's no distractions because there's not even natural fucking light. There is like a girl there that's someone's girlfriend. It's not clear who she's dating. She's there.
Yeah, and you think, like, okay, well, she doesn't seem to be having any fun gaming, but, like, if she didn't want to be here, she would leave. So, like, it's not like she hates it.
She fucking hates it. She actually hates it. It's because we're all socialized wrong, and no one is ever comfortable saying they're not having a good time. And because of that, she's there.
Yeah. The gaming house, in many ways, is a cocoon. You live there, and you break down into a goop. This is why leaving it hurts you, because you don't have a body, because you've become goop in the cocoon. And also, this girl who's visiting, like, she doesn't want to be there because then she's covered in goop. Yuck. No one wants that. But eventually you become a disgusting gaming butterfly, and you will really appreciate that time you spent in the gaming house.
After you're a butterfly, what's going to happen is you're going to have to take a class where you try to get into Criterion movies, and then you realize you're just, like, fucking stupid.
You're going to think about, like, I got to get the Criterion DVDs, and I got to fucking watch the special features. I got to get all the Kurosawa movies where he fucking adapts Shakespeare plays. No, you should just watch Naruto.
At this stage in my life, I was afraid of anime again.
The next class you're going to need to take in Sicko Studies is, of course, gaming studies. You're going to need to spend at least 200 hours of your life playing LAN games with your homies. You simply must play StarCraft with your roommates.
Yeah. Alternative to StarCraft is there is a TF2 concentration, but StarCraft is a better program.
Yeah, StarCraft, I think, has the key aspect in that it makes you furious, which is really a big part of the gaming studies course, is to learn how to make gaming make you so angry.
I also want to stop you there, Tom, because any basic Googling will lead you to learn that DePaul has an extensive gaming setup with, like, LANs for PC gaming, and there's a console lab and shit because they have a large game dev program. And there's lots of clubs and activities based around that. What you're going to do is never go to those.
Yeah, no. Those are bullshit. Those are tricks.
Those are tricks because those people don't want you to get better at StarCraft.
Yes. They are like the pool hustlers. They're not invested in your evolution as a pool player. They're there to trick you.
Yeah. Also, like, those rooms smelled bad all the time.
They do. I mean, the gaming house that you're living in is also going to smell bad. That we sort of left that unsaid. That is sort of a given. But yeah. Also, the thing about gaming studies, the real goal that you're looking for here, and another reason that the DePaul's official facilities can't get you there, is that someone who's really excelling at gaming studies, who's going to be getting an A, definitely has a 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. sleep cycle.
When the brain sleeps from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., it reinforces muscle memory for doing combos. This is the peak time that you need to be sleeping. If you're not keeping to this schedule, you're losing gaming gains.
It's true, Joe. And here's actually a pro tip that I think it's going to help people out there who are trying to matriculate in gaming studies, and specifically this. When you are gaming and it's dark out and you hear birds start chirping, that's when you need to switch over to focusing on the most important thing you're trying to remember, because that means you're an hour away from 6 a.m., and that's when you're going to go to sleep. And you need to make sure that the thing that your brain is turning over in that sort of sicko hyperbaric sleep is the most critical thing. So when you hear the birds chirping, that's when you change your focus.
Yeah. You got to, like, think about what your biggest weakness as a player is, and that's got to be the last thing in your frontal lobe as you conk out.
Excellent. And sort of once you've passed gaming studies, it's like, well, what am I going to do next year? Obviously, you're going to need to take Board Games 301.
Yeah, so the point of this class is not to learn anything about board games. The point is to play as many board games as humanly possible with other people who have schedules that allow them to play board games nonstop. That's the only purpose of this class. You will never learn what a Euro game is. No one's going to like talk about how, oh, these are actually just sort of like a game of solitaire where 4 people play and wordlessly never interact with each other. No one's going to say that shit to you. You just have to fucking play the games with the cubes.
You absolutely shotgun these motherfuckers. This is the last time you ever will be able to do this, so you just have to really... The whole grading rubric is just like, how much did you do? And more is better no matter what.
You should have a group of friends that are constantly talking but never committing to buying like a $180 game. Like, that should always be happening.
Yes. Like... Your exams aren't like explain the design philosophy of different schools of board game design. No, like the exam is like, yo, you got to play a game no one in your group has played before, and you got to get to the end with no one being on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy. Additionally, there's a capstone version of this exam that's it's its own course. And what it is you have to play a 3+ hour game where all players have played the game at least 5 times. So like this is the only time in your life you're going to be able to play one of those big stupid war games, and you will be able to play it without someone asking, how do I move every 2 minutes? This is very important. And the grade you get is just, congrats, you experienced something that will never happen again.
I was going to say that if you pass, you become the president. But I think yours is actually more accurate because, like, there's so many games that are like, I offer a rich and compelling experience with strategy and negotiation. And you're like, well, damn, that sounds wild as hell. I love that. Except that what it actually offers is a rich and compelling experience of people being like, what are we negotiating over? Money? What do I spend the money on? On development cards? What do those develop? So yeah, you can do this. I got to tell you, I don't think I ever passed this capstone version. This is my one real regret from my own Sicko Studies minor that I took. But if you can do it, holy shit.
I didn't get to do it in college. I got to do it with friends in New Orleans playing, I think, Twilight Imperium. Here's the thing. It was a 3-hour game. Everyone else knew how to play it. It was an amazing experience. I'm never going to do that shit again. That was a long game.
Also, you just totally lied because you hadn't played it 5 times. Everyone has to have played it 5 times in order to pass that capstone. You were the new guy. There has to be no new guy.
Okay, I lied and I faked it. I was the lion people who are really good at space trading, and I figured I could fake it till I make it. I came in second to last. It was fine.
Fuck. All right, the next thing you got to do in your Sicko Studies course is you have to spend a year in the posting mines. You have to just get deep in the muck.
So this is why this 2010 thing is so important. In 2010, there were still a lot of really dumb forms that you could get invested in. At the radio station, my favorite example of this is there was a friend of mine who was the music manager, and he was like in confidence. He told me once, he was like, yeah, so the best place I post about hip hop is that there's this weird game spot forum that is really good. And he's like, I'm really invested into this. And like getting to like hear about this little treasure, which in 2010 there still was very fun.
Yeah. So if the final exam for the posting mines is, of course, if you can emerge from the year of immersion and have any sense of empathy still, then you pass.
Yeah.
And to that point, Joe, that forum that your buddy was on, another thing that's going to happen if you are a Sicko Studies major, you're going to listen to a lot of white rappers. You're just going to think they're really good because of their vocabulary and their complex rhyme schemes.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to revisit that and be like, oh, God. Oh, God.
Yeah, no, they're real bad. No. Fuck. Oops.
Oh, no.
I think part of the thing that unlocks that realization is that every single one of these fucking white rappers, the only topic that they ever talked about in their rap was that real rap was coming back, that the rappers on the radio these days are whack, and real rap's coming back, and real rap is gonna be me saying like triskaidekaphobia, and it's like really long words and like having words that are like 5 syllables long, and the next word in the next line is 5 syllables long, and each syllable rhymes with the one before, and you're gonna be like, damn, this is real rap. Real rap is coming back. But it didn't. It never did, because it wasn't good enough. And the shit on the radio is better. Sorry.
Yeah, like, I don't want white guys to rap about rap, but they should do ska songs about ska. That's good. They should also have like a really weird exclusionary aspect about their views of ska, like what they consider to be true ska. That would be fine.
Yeah, there's got to be a wave of ska that they hate. They'll never explain why.
Yeah. In your third year of college, you're going to realize that the main reason you're in college is because you like making girls laugh. And it's going to fuck up your brain because you just spent a lot of money, Joe.
And I think that the final thing that you got to do to get your Sicko Studies major is, and this is something we both did, is work at the writing center. Get a job at the writing center.
You absolutely should. If your university has a writing center, you should do it because, well, it's really the only time in your life you're ever going to get meaningfully paid for writing anything. So that's something.
Yeah. You get to see firsthand how to waste time at work, which is a crucial skill. It's sort of a crucible that burns that skill into your brain. And you also get to learn how to ignore a bunch of new annoying protocols that get put into place to track efficiency. So you're going to be seeing this in your professional life. There's like, hey, we've decided that now you have to do this. You have to fill in this tracker. This is going to teach you how to fucking ignore that and not get in trouble.
I was embedded in the classrooms directly because I was a talented cutie pie. So I never wasted time once.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So that might be just based on your actual position in the writing center, and that skill might only be valid for some of it. But one thing that is going to apply no matter what you do in the writing center is you get to see firsthand just how holistically the U.S. education system has failed every living human on every conceivable level.
Yes, you're going to get a lot of different fronts to this rot. One of that really stuck with me is the concurrent pressures of first generation college students who don't speak English natively happening as they try to navigate some of this stuff. That is really a radicalizing thing for me because you realize that, like, well, if you're at this point in college, like trying to make up for lost time, something along the way has failed you, right?
Yeah.
And that sucks because, again, like, this is the most important financial decision of someone's life, and they're navigating this with also trying to, one, understand what college is, and also learn English in an academic setting very quickly. That was one of the ways that it really stuck with me. And that sort of translated over how I think about how anyone comes into jobs, which is, again, a theme of the show, wholly unprepared.
Yep. Like, one thing that I noticed, this was with even like native English speakers who always thought that we were going to college. Not even like I'm the first person in my family to go to college. Like people who are like, yeah, I'm the college guy. Everyone in my family goes to college. I always was going to go to college. People who are legitimately smart and eventually really good writers. Literally, I don't think there was ever a time where I did a writing center session with someone and I didn't do the thing where I look at their essay, I read the first 3 paragraphs, and I'm just like, okay. And I put it down, and I'm like, so what are you trying to say in the essay? Like, what's the point? And they're like, oh, the point is that I believe that X is Y. And I'm like, I believe that X is Y. Okay. And I would write that down on a piece of paper, and I'd give it to them, and I'd be like, you're going to want to put this sentence that I wrote down verbatim in your essay. And they're like, huh, is that allowed? And I'm like, yes.
This is why business books are getting away with murder, because every business book is essentially like, hey, when you do a thing, have a goal in mind. And and the only fucking context where that is like reinforced as a good is in like the horrible world of business. It's never part of your creative growth.
Mm-hmm. It's fucking ridiculous, dude.
The Writing Center is also important because it's the first time you've ever visibly noticed Tom, your future co-host. And I remember this very distinctly because there was a Writing Center banquet, which was like a sort of like fakes. Everyone got suits. It was like a nice kind of banquet, whatever. And I was running late.
They gave you food. They gave you free food.
They gave you free food, yeah.
That's why I went.
And I was running late, and like my tie came untied. I like just have it tied, and it was fucked up, and like I'm stupid. Like I couldn't do it right because I was like late and nervous. So I went downstairs in my building where there's the guys wearing ties, and I was like, "Homies, can you help me out?" And they were both like, "No, our wives do it." And I was like, "Fuck." I remember being rushed and late, and there was like someone I was talking to there, and I was late, and I didn't even sit at their table. And the talent portion of the show starts, which is just like various people from the Writing Center who have things they want to perform, did it, and it's fun. And then there was like music, like people played songs. I think someone did actual magic, like they made a deal with the devil and changed cards. What you did is you stood up and you read things off a piece of paper. Yeah. And they were very funny. And the whole time I was like, why can't he stand right though? like what is his arms?
No. Do I stand bad?
Now you've embraced it because you've done enough live shows with the skewer where like you know that you should just start wiggling your body when you talk because it's funnier.
I've become the tube man from car dealership.
Yeah, the problem when I saw you at that banquet is that you were still being affected by realistic physics, and it just looked really uncanny.
Oh, fuck. Joe, okay. I want to tell you something else. That was a good story. Very funny. Very endearing. And yes, I think that is the first time you saw me. I hadn't met you. You put it together later, like, oh, you're that guy. So I don't think you saw this next part, but this is gonna fucking knock you off your feet. I did so well with that funny essay I read at that banquet that the next year, my senior year, I was invited to be in the banquet again. This time in a hosting capacity, because part of it is that there are awards. So it'd be like the kind of way that like someone would host the Oscars, where like between awards, some people would come out, do some light banter, tell some jokes, and then introduce the next award, segueing into that based on what the banter was about. Yeah. So I was assigned to do this with another guy, and we would meet a few times a week and just like do some bits, like workshop bits, figure out like, oh, what are we going to do to like, what are we going to do to introduce this bit? How do we introduce this next award? What do we put here? And we would workshop the bits. We would like rehearse them in like the library room and like punch them up. And I got to tell you, like I hadn't really known this guy, and I'd never hung out with him later. This was the only interaction I ever had with him. But we were so fucking hyped about this. We were really excited. We thought we had come up with something very funny and very engaging. And what happened was, nobody laughed ever. Everyone hated it.
Oh my God.
So much.
I love these stories from Tom because a lot of comedians like to give like stories where they bomb on stage, whatever. Well, Tom doesn't. He's not a comedian. So, like, all the stories of him bombing are, like, weird social situations where he had to be funny. and they're so much better for that reason. There's just, like, you were given this obligation to entertain someone, and it didn't go so great.
The Killer Thing show, like, it soon became clear that, like, oh, the whole tone of our routine is not hitting, and we had to keep still going up there, and we were like looking at each other like, do we do it?
You had to feed yourself into the wood chipper You were like getting in, or like, oh, we're not done yet. I'm still peeking out.
Joe, the real fucking killer thing, the thing that made me like dissociate was that like afterwards when like their ceremony was done and people were just hanging out, nobody fucking mentioned to me that I had been part of the process.
Yeah, that's you look like you were having fun. That's the nonverbal version of it, is to exist in a world where the thing you just didn't happen. That's how hard you have to be committed to that.
Yeah, and I think also this also sort of backdoor leads into I think one of the final piece of a real well-rounded Sicko Studies major is you gotta come up with a creative work that you've worked really hard on, that you've applied your entire skill set to and put a lot of hours into and are deeply proud of. And then it's just got to fucking fail so hard. It's got to flop and do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key.
Yeah. You have to do it at this point because it's when you have access to board games, which kind of like absorbs a lot of the creative and psychic trauma of just fucking up something creatively. Because it doesn't matter that someone said something you wrote was trite because you're going to push little cubes around.
It's true, dude. There you got the padding. You got the psychic padding that you'll never have ever again. You gotta take these lumps now while you can survive them. Oh, fuck. This is a great episode of Anime Sickos. Personally, I think in the top half.
Yeah.
We fixed college, folks. It happened. Anyway, thank y'all for listening. I've been Tom in Anime Sicko.
I'm Joe in Anime Sicko.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at Sharia Uncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.